The throne room of the empire was made of black stone and golden light. Emperor Thane sat on his great chair, looking down at his two sons. His scales were dark purple, the color of royalty. His eyes were cold and sharp like knives. Prince stood tall and proud before his father. He was the eldest son, strong and hungry for power. His scales were bright red, and his voice was loud when he spoke. "Father, I ask for your permission to lead a fleet to the border moon called IV," said. "Human creatures have built a small station there. Let me destroy it and show the galaxy that the Empire fears nothing." Emperor Thane did not answer right away. He looked at his younger son, Prince, who stood quietly behind his brother. Scales were pale blue, and his eyes were always watching, always thinking. "What do you know of these humans?" the Emperor asked. Laughed. "They are weak, father. They have soft skin and small bodies. They come from a tiny planet called Earth. Our scouts say there are only 12 of them on IV. 12. I will take 3,000 of our finest warriors. It will be over before the sun sets." General stepped forward. He was old and had fought in many wars. His face was covered with scars from battles long ago. "My emperor," said carefully, "we know very little about human military strength. Perhaps we should study them more before we attack." Turned to the general with anger in his eyes. "Are you afraid, old one? We have conquered 12 species across 3 star systems. None could stand against us. Why would these humans be any different?" Prince finally spoke. His voice was soft but clear. "Brother, I have read some of the transmissions we captured from human space. They call themselves persistent. They say they never give up. Perhaps we should be careful." Walked to his brother and put a hand on his shoulder. He smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Little brother, you read too much and fight too little. These humans try to sound strong because they are weak. It is what prey does when it sees a predator." Emperor Thane raised his hand, and everyone fell silent. The emperor said, "You wish to prove yourself before your coronation trials. I understand this. Take your fleet. Take your warriors. Bring me victory and show the humans that the Empire is the supreme power in this galaxy." Drop to one knee. "Thank you, father, I will not fail you." As the princes left the throne room, grabbed his brother's arm. "Let me come with you," he said. "I want to see these humans for myself." Studied his brother's face for a moment, then nodded. "Very well. Watch and learn, little brother. Watch how a true prince makes war." 3 days later, the armada arrived at IV. The moon was a gray and rocky place. There were no trees, no rivers, no life. Just endless valleys of stone and dust under a dark sky. The human station sat in the middle of a wide valley, surrounded by cliffs and caves. Stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking at the station through the viewing screen. It was small and simple, just a few buildings with machines on the roof. He could see no weapons, no defenses. "Scan for human life signs," ordered. The ship's officer worked at his controls. 12 humans detected, my prince. They are inside the main building." Smiled widely. 12 humans, 3,000 warriors. This will not even be a battle. It will be a demonstration. General stood nearby, his old eyes studying the landscape below. Something about it made him uncomfortable. The valleys were deep. The cliffs were high. There were too many places to hide. "My prince," said, "perhaps we should send a small force first to test their defenses." "No," said firmly. "We land in full force. We show them our power. They will surrender immediately when they see what they face." Prince looked at the viewing screen in silence. He noticed something strange. The human station had been there for several months, according to their intelligence reports, but there were no clear paths between the buildings, no signs of regular movement. It was almost as if the humans had been deliberately hiding their activities. "Brother," said quietly, "does something seem wrong to you?" Did not even turn around. "The only thing wrong is that we are still talking instead of fighting. Begin the landing." On the surface of IV, Inside the human relay station, a warning light began to flash. Captain Park looked up from his desk. He was a man of medium height with a calm face and steady eyes. He had been a soldier for 15 years, and he had learned long ago that panic was the enemy of survival. He pressed a button on his console. "All units, this is the captain. We have incoming contacts. Looks like a big fleet in orbit. Everyone report to the briefing room in 5 minutes." Stood up and walked to the window. He could see the first ships breaking through the clouds, descending toward the valley. There were many of them, too many. He took a sip of his coffee and set the cup down gently. Sergeant Lee was the first to arrive in the briefing room. She was tall and strong, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. She carried a heavy plasma cannon on her back like it weighed nothing. "How many?" she asked. "Initial scans show about 3,000, answered. Nodded slowly. 3,000 against 12. I've had worse odds. The others arrived quickly. Corporal, the medic who was also deadly with a knife. Private, the young sniper who never missed. Lieutenant, the tech specialist who could hack anything with a power source. And 7 more soldiers, each one trained and ready. Looked at his team. They were not afraid, they were focused. "Listen carefully," he said. "We are a scout unit. Our job is to watch and report. But these aliens don't know that. They think we are alone and helpless. They think this will be easy." He smiled slightly. "Let's show them how wrong they are. We hold this position until the fleet can respond. That means we survive. We fight smart. We make them pay for every step they take on this moon." Private checked her rifle. "How long until reinforcements arrive?" "If we send a signal now, maybe 2 days, maybe more." Sergeant Lee cracked her knuckles. 2 days. That's a lot of time to teach these lizards a lesson. Captain Park looked out the window one more time. The ships were landing now, hundreds of them, filling the valley with dust and noise. "All right," he said calmly. "Everyone knows their positions. Everyone knows the plan. Let's welcome our guests properly." The 12 humans moved out into the rocky darkness, and the trap was set. The warriors marched across the rocky ground of IV with pride in their hearts. They were tall creatures, standing nearly 8 feet high. Their bodies were covered with thick scales that could stop most weapons. Their eyes could see in the dark. Their ears could hear the smallest sound. For thousands of years, they had been the greatest hunters in their part of the galaxy. Prince walked at the front of the main force, his golden armor shining under the pale light of distant stars. He had brought 3,000 of the Empire's finest soldiers, elite warriors who had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds. Against 12 soft-skinned humans, it would be like stepping on insects. "Spread out," commanded. "Search every building. Find the humans and bring them to me alive. I want them to kneel before they die." General organized the troops into search parties of 50 warriors each. They moved toward the relay station in perfect formation, their weapons ready, their senses alert. The station was empty. Walked through the main building himself, his boots echoing on the metal floor. The lights were still on. The machines were still running. There was even a cup of some brown liquid sitting on a desk, still warm. "They ran," said with disgust. "The cowards ran when they saw us coming." "My prince," General said carefully, "if they ran, where did they go? Our ships would have detected any vehicle leaving the area." Waved his hand dismissively. "They are hiding in the rocks like the vermin they are. Send the search parties into the valleys. Find them." The first group of 50 warriors entered the eastern valley as the sky grew darker. IV had long nights, almost 18 hours of darkness. They were not worried. Their eyes were made for the dark. They could see heat signatures, movement, anything that lived. They found nothing. Then they started to die. The first warrior fell without a sound. One moment he was walking at the back of the formation. The next moment he was lying on the ground with a hole through his head. No one heard the shot. No one saw where it came from. Private lay on a cliff nearly 2 kilometers away, her eye pressed to her rifle's scope. She was 22 years old, the youngest member of the scout unit. Back on Earth, she had won every shooting competition she entered. Out here, in the darkness of an alien moon, she was something far more dangerous. She moved her aim to the next target, breathed out slowly, and pulled the trigger. Another fell. The warriors began to panic. They fired their weapons at the cliffs, at the shadows, at anything that moved. They hit nothing but rocks. "Contact, we are under attack," the squad leader screamed into his radio. "We cannot see the enemy, request support." Before support could arrive, 15 more warriors were dead. In another valley, Corporal waited in the darkness. He was not a big man, but he was fast and quiet. He had trained for years in close combat, learning how to kill with his hands, with knives, with anything he could find. A patrol walked past his hiding spot. Their scales were tough but knew where the weak points were: the neck, the joints, the soft flesh under the arms. He moved like a shadow. The first warrior died before he knew was there. The second turned just in time to see a blade coming toward his throat. The third fired his weapon wildly but was already gone, vanishing into the rocks like smoke. 7 died in that valley, and they never even saw their killer's face. Sergeant Lee had set her position at a narrow canyon pass. She had spent 2 days planting explosives in the rocks, hiding them carefully where no scanner could find them. Now she sat behind a wall of stone with her plasma cannon ready and waited. When the search party entered the canyon, she smiled. The explosions were beautiful. Rocks fell from the cliffs like rain. Warriors screamed as fire consumed them. Those who survived the initial blast ran forward, trying to escape, and found waiting for them. Her plasma cannon roared. Blue fire cut through armor like paper. She stood her ground, firing again and again, until the canyon was filled with smoke and silence. 43 dead, 1 human woman with a gun. On the command ship, Prince stared at the reports coming in with growing disbelief. Every search party that entered the valleys was being destroyed. His warriors were dying, and they could not find even 1 human to fight. "This is impossible," he said. 12 humans cannot do this. There must be more of them. There must be hundreds hiding somewhere. Prince stood at the edge of the command room, watching his brother's anger grow. He had been studying the battle reports carefully. The attacks were not random. They were coordinated. The humans were using the terrain, the darkness, and their enemies' confusion against them. "Brother," said quietly, "these humans fight differently than any species we have faced. They do not stand and face us. They strike and disappear. They are using our own confidence against us." "Then we will burn them out," shouted. "Send more troops, fill every valley with warriors. They cannot hide forever." General stepped forward. His face was pale, and for the first time there was fear in his old eyes. "My prince, we have lost 200 warriors in the last 4 hours. We have not killed a single human. We have not even seen one clearly. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach." Grabbed the general by his armor and pulled him close. "Are you suggesting we retreat from 12 primitives?" "I am suggesting we fight smarter, my prince." Threw the general aside. "Send everyone, all 3,000, flood the valleys, leave nowhere for them to hide. I want those humans found before sunrise." As the army mobilized for a massive assault, a voice crackled over their communication system. It was a human voice, calm and clear, speaking in the language. "This is Captain Park of the Terran Scout Corps. You have invaded human territory. You have lost 200 soldiers in 4 hours. You will lose many more if you continue." His eyes went wide with rage. "I am giving you 1 chance," continued. "Leave this moon now and you will live. Stay and we will make you regret it." The transmission ended. For a long moment, no one on the command ship spoke, then began to laugh. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone whose pride had been wounded. He threatens us, said. 12 of them against 3,000 and he threatens us. This human does not understand what he faces. Prince walked to a viewing screen and looked down at the dark valleys below. Somewhere down there, 12 humans were waiting in the shadows. They had killed 200 elite warriors without losing a single soldier. For the first time in his life, Prince felt something cold in his chest. It was fear. "Brother," he said softly, "perhaps we should listen." Turned to him with fire in his eyes. "We will not listen. We will not stop. We will find these humans and we will tear them apart with our own hands. Prepare the full assault. Tonight we end this." The night on IV grew darker and the humans waited in the shadows, ready for what was to come. 2,000 warriors poured into the valleys of IV like a flood. Their commanders had given them simple orders. Cover every path, check every shadow, leave no rock unturned. The humans could not hide forever. Eventually, they would be found. Prince watched from a forward command post on a high cliff. He could see his army spreading across the landscape below, thousands of lights moving through the darkness. This time, there would be no escape for the humans. "Now we shall see how brave they are," said to his brother, who stood silently beside him. Prince said nothing. He was watching the valley, but not the army. He was looking at the shadows between the rocks, the dark places where nothing moved. He could not shake the feeling that those shadows were watching back. Lieutenant crouched in a hidden cave, his fingers moving quickly over a portable computer. He was connected to the communication network now. It had taken him 2 hours to crack their encryption, but now he could hear everything they said. More importantly, he could change what they saw. "Captain," whispered into his radio, "I'm in their system, ready when you are." Captain Park's voice came back calm and steady. "Do it." Smiled and began to type. On the valley floor, warriors suddenly stopped moving. Their helmet displays were showing strange things. Movement in places where there was nothing. Heat signatures that appeared and disappeared. Enemy targets that seemed to be everywhere at once. "Contact left," a warrior shouted and fired into the darkness. "Contact right," another screamed. Soon the entire army was firing. Plasma bolts lit up the night like lightning. Warriors shot at rocks, at shadows, at each other. The confusion spread like a disease, turning disciplined soldiers into frightened animals. "Hold your fire," commanders screamed. "Those are false signals, stop shooting." But it was too late. In the chaos, the real humans began their attack. Private had moved to a new position, higher up on the cliffs. From here she could see the entire valley. They were running in circles, shooting at nothing. It was almost too easy. She picked her targets carefully, officers first, the ones giving orders, the ones trying to restore calm. One by one she put them down. 53 shots, 53 kills, she never missed. In the eastern valley, Sergeant Lee waited at her canyon pass. They had learned from before. They sent 300 warriors this time, moving slowly and carefully, checking for traps. Had prepared new traps. The first explosion collapsed the entrance behind them. The second explosion collapsed the exit ahead. 300 were trapped in a stone box with no way out. Stood up from her hiding place and opened fire. She did not stop for 3 hours. When her plasma cannon overheated, she picked up a fallen weapon and kept shooting. When that weapon ran out of power, she drew her combat knife and went to work. The canyon became a graveyard. 212 died there. When the survivors finally broke through the blocked exit and escaped, they ran without looking back. They had seen something in that canyon, a human woman covered in blood and dust, still standing, still fighting, still coming for them. They had seen death with a human face. Corporal moved through the lines like a ghost. He had studied their formations, learned their patrol patterns, found the gaps in their defenses. Now he used that knowledge to kill. He appeared behind a group of officers discussing tactics. 4 quick strikes, 4 bodies on the ground, gone before anyone could react. He dropped from a cliff onto a supply convoy, destroyed their ammunition, disappeared into the rocks. He crawled through a drainage tunnel into the middle of a rest camp, killed the sentries, set fire to their equipment, left chaos behind. By the end of the night, he had personally killed 89. His body was covered with wounds, cuts and burns and plasma grazes, but he kept moving. The pain did not matter. The mission mattered. Captain Park coordinated everything from a central position. He could hear his team through the radio, could track their movements, could see the bigger picture of the battle. Shift to Sector 7, they're regrouping there. Fall back to Position Delta, you've done enough at that canyon. Medical supplies at Cache 3, get yourself patched up. His voice never wavered. His mind never stopped working. He moved his people like pieces on a game board, always one step ahead of the enemy. When came close to his position, he fought them himself. His rifle was accurate and deadly. His movements were efficient and calm. He was not the strongest fighter in the unit, but he was and in war, intelligence was the most dangerous weapon of all. As the long night continued, Prince made a decision. He wanted to see these humans himself. He wanted to understand what they were facing. He went down to the valley against his brother's orders. He walked among the bodies of fallen warriors, looking at the wounds, studying the patterns of death. What he saw made his blood run cold. These kills were not lucky. They were precise. Every shot, every cut, every explosion had been placed exactly where it would do the most damage. The humans were not just fighting. They were hunting. Then he saw something that made him stop. A human soldier was moving through the rocks ahead. It was Corporal, wounded and bleeding, dragging another human behind him. The other human was unconscious, probably hurt in the fighting. Raised his weapon. He had a clear shot. He could end at least one of them right now. But he hesitated. Did not see him. He was too focused on his wounded friend, pulling him towards safety despite his own injuries. Every step clearly caused him pain. Every movement made his wounds bleed more. But he did not stop. He did not leave his companion behind. Had conquered many species. He had seen enemies beg for their lives, betray their friends, abandon their wounded to save themselves. That was normal. That was what prey did when faced with death. This human was not acting like prey. Lowered his weapon and let them go. When he returned to the command post, his brother was waiting with fury on his face. "Where were you?" demanded. "I ordered you to stay here." "I wanted to see them," said quietly. "The humans." "And what did you see?" Looked at his brother for a long moment. "I saw something that does not know how to give up. I saw something that would rather die than abandon its own. I saw something, brother, that I think we should be afraid of." Slapped him across the face. "You are weak. You are a coward. These are just humans and we will crush them." The sky began to lighten. Dawn was coming to IV. When the sun rose, Prince counted his losses. Over 1,400 were dead, in one night, against 12 humans. He did not speak for a long time. The humans had been fighting for 30 hours without sleep. Captain Park looked at his team. They were gathered in a reinforced bunker deep in the eastern cliffs. Their faces were tired. Their bodies were wounded. Their ammunition was running low. But they were still alive. "Status report," said. Sergeant Lee was cleaning her plasma cannon. Her arms were covered with burns and cuts. "Weapon is functional. I have maybe 2 hours of power left." Corporal sat against the wall, bandaging a wound on his leg. "I can still move, still fight." Private checked her rifle for the 100th time. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her hands were steady. 47 rounds left. I'll make them count. Lieutenant was working on the communication equipment. "I managed to send a message to Fleet Command before they jammed our signals. Help is coming, but they're at least 6 hours away." 6 hours against the remaining army. Nodded slowly. Then we hold for 6 hours, simple as that. No one laughed. They all knew the odds. 800 warriors were still alive and searching for them. The bunker was strong, but it was not built to withstand a full military assault. They had limited supplies, limited ammunition, limited options. But they were human, and humans did not give up. Outside, Prince was done waiting. He had spent the morning gathering his remaining forces. 800 warriors, the survivors of the night's massacre. They were angry. They were humiliated. They wanted revenge. "We found their hiding place," General reported. "A bunker in the eastern cliffs, underground, reinforced. They must have prepared it before we arrived." "Then we dig them out," said. "Bring everyone. Bring every weapon we have. I want that bunker opened, and I want those humans brought to me alive. They will pay for every they killed." Prince stepped forward. "Brother, perhaps we should wait for reinforcements. Call for more ships from we have already lost too many." Turned to his brother with hatred in his eyes. "We outnumber them more than 60 to 1. If we cannot defeat 12 humans with 800 warriors, we do not deserve to call ourselves. This ends now." The assault began at midday. They attacked the bunker from every direction. They used explosives to break through the outer defenses. They used cutting beams to slice through metal walls. They pushed forward with overwhelming numbers, filling every corridor, every room. The humans fought back with everything they had. Private held a narrow hallway for an hour, her rifle cracking again and again, each shot finding its target. When her ammunition ran out, she picked up a weapon and kept shooting. Corporal set traps in every corridor, explosives, tripwires, falling debris. The paid in blood for every meter they advanced. Sergeant Lee stood at the final door to the command room. Her cannon was out of power. She had taken a plasma bolt to the shoulder, but she did not move. She killed 4 with her knife before they brought her down with a stun blast. They pushed deeper into the bunker, stepping over the bodies of their fallen, until they reached the central command room. Captain Park was waiting for them. He stood alone in the middle of the room, a rifle in his hands. Around him lay the unconscious bodies of his team, wounded and exhausted, finally overwhelmed by numbers. Prince pushed through his warriors and stood before the human. He was breathing hard. His armor was damaged. He had lost over 100 more soldiers just breaking into this bunker. "You," said, pointing at, "you are their leader." Said nothing. He just watched the prince with calm eyes. "Do you know how many of my warriors you have killed?" demanded. "Do you understand what you have done?" "I know exactly what I've done," said. His voice was quiet but clear. "And I would do it again." Raised his weapon and shot in the chest. The plasma bolt hit him square in the body armor. The impact knocked him backward. He fell to the ground and did not move. Smiled finally, "It is over." Then got back up. They stepped back in shock. The human should be dead. The plasma bolt had hit him directly. No creature could survive that. But was standing. There was a hole in his armor, burned flesh visible beneath. Blood was dripping down his chest, but he was standing. "What are you?" whispered. Moved forward. His steps were slow and painful, but he did not stop. Behind him, the other humans were stirring. Sergeant Lee was pushing herself up from the ground. Private was reaching for a fallen weapon. Corporal was already on his feet, a knife in his hand. They had been shot. They had been beaten. They had been fighting for over 30 hours, and they were still getting up. Prince felt his heart freeze. He had read stories about monsters, about creatures that could not be killed. He had always thought they were just stories. Now he was watching one come to life. "Our bodies have medicine inside them," said, still walking toward. "Chemicals that block pain, drugs that speed up healing, technology that keeps us moving when we should be dead." He smiled, and there was blood on his teeth. "You thought we were soft because our skin is weak. You were wrong. Our skin is not our strength." He pointed at his chest, at his heart. "This is our strength. The thing inside that refuses to quit, the will to keep fighting even when the body wants to stop. Fired again, the bolt hits arm. He staggered but did not fall. "You can shoot us," said. "You can hurt us. You can break our bodies, but you cannot break what we are." Behind him, Sergeant Lee had retrieved her knife. Private had a rifle trained on. Corporal was moving toward the flanks. 12 humans against 800. They were wounded. They were exhausted. They should have been dead. But they were still fighting. "Take them alive," screamed. "All of them now." They rushed forward with stun weapons. The humans fought back, but there were too many. One by one they fell again, overwhelmed by sheer numbers. But even as they fell, they kept fighting, biting, scratching, struggling, until the very last moment of consciousness. When it was finally over, Prince looked at the 12 unconscious humans on the ground. His hands were shaking. He had won. He had captured them. Then why did it feel like he had lost? Prince walked up to his brother. His face was pale. His voice was barely a whisper. "Brother," he said, "what have we awakened?" Did not answer. He was staring at Captain Park's face. Even unconscious, even defeated, the human looked peaceful, almost content. As if this was exactly what he had planned. The humans were locked in a holding cell inside the command ship. Their hands were bound. Their wounds had been treated just enough to keep them alive. Guards stood at every door. Prince had ordered them kept alive for now. He wanted to question them. He wanted to understand how 12 creatures had nearly destroyed his entire army. Captain Park sat with his back against the wall, watching his team. They were all awake now. Tired, wounded, but awake. They had done their job. They had held the position. Now they just had to wait. Lieutenant caught his eye and nodded slightly. His message had gotten through. Help was coming. The cell door opened, and Prince walked in alone. He had ordered the guards to stay outside. He wanted to speak to these humans without witnesses. Looked up at the alien prince. He could see something different in this one. The older brother was filled with anger and pride, but this one had something else in his eyes. Fear, curiosity, and maybe, just maybe, respect. "You are their leader," said. It was not a question. "I am Captain Park of the Terran Scout Corps, 7th Reconnaissance Unit." Pulled up a small seat and sat down across from the human. "I have questions for you. I need to understand." "Ask." "How many humans are there?" Considered the question. There was no reason to lie. The truth was more frightening than any lie could be. On Earth, our home planet, there are about 12 billion people. Our species has colonies on over 200 worlds now. Our total population is somewhere around 30 billion. Absorb this information. 30 billion. The entire empire had only 4 billion citizens across 3 star systems. "And your military?" asked. "How large is your military?" "Active personnel, about 400 million soldiers. Reserves bring that number to over 1 billion. The blood drained from his face. 400 million soldiers. He had brought 3,000, thinking it would be more than enough. 3,000 against 400 million. "Then why," said slowly, "were there only 12 of you here, on this moon, guarding this station? If you have such numbers, why so few?" Smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it made deeply uncomfortable. "Because you weren't considered a significant threat." "I do not understand." Leaned forward as much as his restraints would allow. "This station is a communications relay. Small, unimportant. We needed someone to maintain it and watch the border, so command sent us. A scout unit. Our job is not to fight. Our job is to observe, report, and survive until the real soldiers arrive." Felt his chest tighten. You are not warriors. "We are scouts, reconnaissance personnel. We do light patrols, gather intelligence, maintain equipment. Some of us have combat training, but we are not frontline fighters. We are the ones who find the enemy and call in the warriors." The prince stood up suddenly, his chair falling backward. His legs felt weak. His mind was spinning. "You killed 2,200 of our finest soldiers," said, "the elite warriors of the Empire. You destroyed our army, and you are saying you are not even. You are not even real fighters." "That's right." "Then what? What are your real fighters like?" Did not answer. He did not need to. The silence said everything. Paced the small cell, his hands shaking. He thought about the night before, the chaos in the valleys, the humans who appeared from nowhere and killed without mercy, the woman who held a canyon against hundreds, the man who moved through their lines like a ghost, the captain who took a plasma bolt to the chest and got back up. Those were the weak ones, the watchers, the observers. If those were just scouts, what would their actual soldiers be like? "Your reinforcements," said suddenly. "They are coming, aren't they?" Smile widened slightly. "Yes." How many are coming?" "I don't know exactly. When we reported contact with a hostile alien force, Fleet Command would have escalated to a full combat response. So, probably the entire Third Fleet." "How many ships is that?" 47 warships, 12 carrier groups, about 200,000 combat marines. Stopped moving, 200,000, against the 800 that remained on IV, and those 200,000 would be real soldiers, real fighters, not scouts. Wen whispered, "When will they arrive?" Looked at the door of the cell. "If my calculations are right, in about 4 hours." Prince ran. He burst out of the holding area and sprinted through the ship's corridors until he reached the command center. His brother was there, looking at reports, still trying to understand what had happened on the surface. Brother shouted, "We have to leave now." Turned with annoyance on his face. "What are you talking about? We have won. We have captured the humans. We have captured scouts," grabbed his brother by the shoulders. "Do you understand? Those 12 humans were not soldiers, they were not warriors, they were scouts, observers, the lowest level of their military." Pushed his brother away. "That is impossible. No scout could fight the way they did." "That is what they are," I spoke with their captain. "Humans have 400 million soldiers, 400 million, and they are sending their real military here, right now. A full fleet, hundreds of thousands of trained killers. They will arrive in 4 hours. The color drained from his face. "You are lying. The human was lying to you. It must be a trick." "Look at what 12 of their scouts did to us," screamed. "Look at the bodies of our warriors. If those were their weakest, what do you think their strongest can do? We have to leave before they arrive." General stepped forward. His face was grave. "My princes, our long-range sensors are detecting something. Multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system." Everyone in the command center went silent. "How many contacts?" asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Looked at his console. His hands were trembling. 47 major vessels, dozens of smaller support ships, and, he paused, as if afraid to say the words, and 3 signatures consistent with planet-class weapons platforms. Planet-class weapons, weapons designed to destroy entire worlds. The humans had sent enough firepower to turn the into dust, for 12 scouts on an unimportant moon. Prince sat down heavily. His pride was gone. His anger was gone. There was nothing left but the cold, terrible understanding of what he had done. He had attacked humanity. He had killed humans. And now humanity was coming to respond. "What do we do?" said. He was not speaking to anyone in particular. "What can we do?" Prince looked at his brother with something like pity. "We pray," he said. "We pray that they are merciful." But looking at the sensor readings, at the massive fleet approaching like a storm of fire and steel, was not sure mercy was something humans believed in. Admiral stood on the bridge of the HSS Indomitable with her hands clasped behind her back. She was a small woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, but her presence filled the room. Every officer on the bridge moved with purpose, spoke with respect. She had earned her rank through 40 years of service, and everyone knew it. The Third Fleet had dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly on schedule. 47 warships spread across the darkness of space, their hulls bristling with weapons. Behind them came the support vessels, the troop carriers, the supply ships, and at the center, like three great monsters sleeping among wolves, floated the planet Crackers, weapons so powerful they had only been used twice in human history. Report said, "Admiral, we have full readings on the alien fleet." Her tactical officer, a young man named, pulled up the data on the main screen. 9 ships in orbit around IV. Design matches nothing in our database. First contact protocol would normally require us to attempt communication before engaging. First contact protocol assumes they haven't already killed our people, said coldly. Status of the scout unit. Unknown. We picked up a distress signal from Lieutenant 12 hours ago. It indicated the unit was under attack by a hostile alien force. Estimated enemy numbers at 3,000 ground troops. And now, sensors show significant activity on the moon's surface. Signs of combat, explosions, weapons fire, but no current communication from our people. Was quiet for a moment. 12 scouts against 3,000 alien warriors. She had known Park for 20 years. They had served together on the Mars border during the Colony Rebellion. He was one of the best soldiers she had ever known. If anyone could survive impossible odds, it was him. But even the best could only do so much. Move the fleet into attack position, she ordered. Target their vessels. Do not fire until I give the order. Yes, Admiral. The commanders watched in horror as the human fleet moved toward them. Their own 9 ships, which had seemed so impressive when they arrived, now looked like insects facing a storm. Prince stood frozen on his command bridge. He had never seen warships so large. The biggest vessel was perhaps 500 meters long. The human flagship was over 2 kilometers from end to end. Its weapons arrays alone were bigger than his entire ship. They're targeting us, General reported. His voice was dead, without hope. Every ship in their fleet has weapons locked on our vessels. Then we fight, shouted, but even he did not believe his own words. We do not surrender to anyone. If we fight, we die, said simply. All of us. In about 30 seconds, look at their weapons, brother. One of those ships could destroy our entire fleet without effort. They brought 47. A communication light flashed on the console. An incoming transmission. Admiral's face appeared on the screen. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were ice. Attention, alien vessels. This is Admiral of the Terran Third Fleet. You have attacked human territory and engaged human personnel. I am giving you 30 seconds to power down all weapons systems and prepare to be boarded. If you comply, you will live. If you do not comply, we will destroy every ship in your fleet and then we will visit your. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. Looked around the bridge at his officers. They were all staring at their controls, at the floor, at anything except him. None of them wanted to be the one to suggest surrender. None of them wanted to die either. Power down weapons, said quietly. Do it now. You would have us surrender, demanded. Like cowards, like prey. I would have us live. Walked to the communication console and opened a channel. This is Prince of the Empire. We accept your terms. Our weapons are powering down. Please do not destroy us. On the Indomitable, Admiral allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. Wise choice. Begin boarding operations and send a message to the surface. Tell our people help has arrived. Human descended on IV like falling stars. Thousands of Marines hit the ground in perfect formation, spreading across the valleys that had seen so much death. The remaining soldiers on the surface surrendered immediately. They had seen what 12 humans could do. They had no desire to face 200,000. General was taken into custody without resistance. He was an old soldier who knew when a war was lost. As the human Marines led him away, he saw the rows of still descending from orbit, the endless stream of soldiers and vehicles and weapons. He stopped one of the Marines, a tall woman with a rifle over her shoulder. "The 12 who fought us," said, "were they your special forces, your best warriors?" The Marine laughed. "Those guys, they're just a scout unit, fresh recruits mostly. I think their sniper was only 2 years out of basic training." Felt his legs go weak. Fresh recruits. "Yeah," the Marine shrugged. "I mean, they did pretty well for scouts, but they're not even close to our best." She gestured toward a group of soldiers loading heavy equipment nearby. "Now those guys, drop commandos, elite assault unit, they'd have finished this in half the time with a quarter of the losses." She walked away, leaving standing in the dust, staring at nothing. Fresh recruits. The warriors who had nearly destroyed his army were fresh recruits. Admiral landed on IV's surface as the situation was being secured. She walked past thousands of prisoners, past burned vehicles and damaged equipment, past the bodies that still littered the valleys. She found Captain Park sitting on a rock outside the reinforced bunker. His wounds had been treated, but he still looked exhausted. His team was gathered around him, battered but alive. Stood up and saluted as the Admiral approached. "Admiral, good to see you." Returned the salute, then did something unexpected. She pulled into a hug. It lasted only a moment, but it was enough. "You crazy old man," she said quietly. "You held off 3,000 aliens with 12 scouts." 11, actually. Lieutenant broke his arm halfway through, so he mostly just handled communications. From nearby called out, "I still helped." Shook her head. "I'm putting your entire unit in for commendation. What you did here is going to become required reading at the academy." "We just did our jobs, Admiral, watched the enemy, reported what we saw, survived until help arrived," smiled tiredly. "That's what scouts do." Behind them, the human fleet continued its operations. Prisoners were processed. Damage was assessed. Communications were established with Earth. And in the holding cells of the Indomitable, Prince and Prince sat in silence, waiting to learn their fate. The war was over before it had truly begun. But for the Empire, the nightmare was just starting. 6 months had passed since the disaster at IV. The great throne room of the Empire was silent. Emperor Thane sat on his chair of black stone, looking older than he had ever looked before. His scales, once bright purple with royal authority, now seemed faded and dull. Around him stood his advisors, generals, and nobles, all waiting in fear. The doors opened, and his sons walked in. Prince had changed. The arrogance was gone from his eyes. His shoulders were bent. He walked like a man carrying a weight that would never lift. Beside him, Prince moved quietly, his face showing nothing. The peace treaty with humanity had been signed 3 months ago. It was written entirely in human terms. The Empire would pay reparations for the attack. They would open their borders to human ships. They would share technology and resources. In exchange, they would be allowed to exist. The princes had been held for 4 months before being returned as part of the agreement. 4 months to think about what they had done. 4 months to understand the consequences. Emperor Thane dismissed everyone except his sons and the High Sage Myra, an ancient who had lived for over 300 years. Her scales were white with age, and her eyes had seen the rise and fall of many powers. "Tell me what happened," the Emperor commanded. "Tell me everything." Prince stepped forward, seemed unable to speak. "Father, we arrived at IV with 3,000 elite warriors. We expected to find a small, weak enemy that would surrender immediately." His voice was steady, but there was something broken beneath the surface. "We were wrong." "How wrong?" "Completely wrong. The humans did not surrender. They did not run. 12 of them, Father. 12 humans against 3,000 of our finest. They killed 2,200 of our warriors before we finally overwhelmed them." The Emperor's eyes widened. He had read the reports, of course. He knew the numbers, but hearing it from his son's mouth made it real in a way the documents never could. 2,200, Thane repeated slowly, against 12. Yes, and father, those 12 were not even soldiers, not truly. Explain. Closed his eyes as if the memory was too painful to face. The human military has different types of forces. The ones we fought were called scouts. Their job is not to fight battles. Their job is to watch the enemy and report information. They are lightly armed. They have minimal combat training compared to other human units. The Emperor leaned forward. You are saying the humans we fought were among their weakest? Yes, father. When I asked their captain what their real warriors were like, he did not answer. He did not need to. The silence told me everything. High Sage Myra made a small sound. Everyone turned to look at her. There are old stories, she said, her voice like dry leaves rustling. From before our empire was born. From the time of the first expansion, when our ancestors explored the far reaches of the galaxy. They found records of a species that frightened even the ancient races. What species? The Emperor asked. They called them the persistent ones. Myra moved slowly toward the center of the room. The story said these creatures came from a harsh world of extremes. They evolved not as the strongest or fastest hunters, but as the ones who would not stop. They would chase their prey for days, weeks, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They did not need to be stronger. They simply needed to never give up. Nodded slowly. That is what we saw, father. Humans do not know how to surrender. They fight until they cannot move. And when they cannot move, they find ways to keep fighting anyway. I shot their captain in the chest, suddenly spoke. His voice was hollow. I shot him directly with a plasma bolt that should have killed him 3 times. He fell. Then he got back up. He got back up and kept walking toward me. The throne room was silent. Their bodies contain machines, continued. Chemicals that block pain, medicines that speed up healing, technology that keeps them moving when any other species would die. But it is not just their technology. It is something inside them, something in their spirit that refuses to accept defeat. Emperor Thane sat back in his throne. He felt very old. He had built an empire by conquering the weak. He had never imagined finding a species that was not weak. What are their numbers? He asked quietly. Answered, 30 billion total population, 400 million active military. They have colonies on over 200 worlds and a fleet large enough to destroy our entire civilization without noticing. Why have they not done so already? Because we are not important enough. His voice cracked slightly. To them, our empire is small, uninteresting. The attack on IV was a minor border incident. They did not declare war because we are not worth the effort of a war. That hurt more than anything else. Not being hated, not being feared, being dismissed, being considered so small and weak that destroying them was not even worth the time. What do we do? Emperor Thane asked. He was not asking his sons. He was asking the universe, the gods, anyone who might be listening. What can we do? High Sage Myra spoke again. We do what all creatures do when they find a predator greater than themselves. We stay silent. We stay still. We do not draw attention, and we pray we are forgotten. The emperor was quiet for a long time. Then he stood and walked to the great window that overlooked his capital city. Millions of his subjects lived there, going about their daily lives, unaware of how close they had come to extinction. Seal all records of the IV incident, he ordered. Publicly, it never happened. No one is to speak of it. And privately, father asked. Privately, send a message to every fleet commander in the Empire. A single order, encrypted, to be memorized and then destroyed. What should the order say? Emperor Thane looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were going about their lives, building ships, raising families, training soldiers, completely unconcerned about a small empire that had once thought itself powerful. The Order will say this: under no circumstances engage human vessels. Avoid their territory at all costs. Do not provoke them. Do not approach them. If human ships are detected, retreat immediately. Violators will be executed. He turned back to his sons. Add a final line. In my own hand, so every commander knows it comes from me directly. What line, father? The Emperor's voice was barely a whisper. They are not prey. They are something else entirely, and may the gods protect us if they ever decide to hunt. The throne room fell silent. Outside, the sun was setting over but for the Empire, a much longer darkness was beginning. Somewhere across the galaxy, Captain Park sat in a small office, filling out paperwork about the incident. His wounds had healed. His team had been given medals. Life went on. He did not know that an entire civilization now feared his species. He did not know that his name was spoken in whispers on a distant world. He did not know that he had changed the course of galactic history. He was just a scout, and scouts did their job and moved on to the next assignment. That was what made humanity so terrifying. They did not even realize how powerful they were. The end.